These sessions are designed to really address people's daily lives, where you're at, because money is connected to everything. And when we talk about financial wellness, it used to be, I think, this goal of I want to have all the money in the world. And I think for where we're at is more of if I could have a little less stress, that'd be great. If I could have some stability, if I could have some financial options, if I could move my life forward with intention the way I want to, without having money feel like a burden, but instead feel like a tool that I'm just using to shape the reality that I would like to live in. And so we're going to talk about all of this, of course, during the session. We do have a chat and a Q&A section within the widgets for this webinar, so you can go in there, type any questions you may have. Becky will be in there as well, monitoring things. Becky is also in our partnership development team, just like Kat is, which I'll introduce Kat in a second. So if you do have questions, feel free to type them in. We will have a section at the end to answer these things. Uh, there is going to be a survey sent out once you end the session. It should pop up automatically. Please provide feedback. Let us know how we did. We actively use your input to shape future sessions. And we do have Money Compass sessions, financial coaching available. So these are great. If this sparks more questions in you that you would like some dedicated time, this is where our partnership development team is great because they also can provide these Money Compass coaching. Kat is in the process of becoming a certified credit union financial counselor. That's that CCUFC at the end of my stuff. She's in the process of doing that through CAFCU. Becky Hilton is available for these one-on-ones. People use them for all sorts of different reasons, but it's just your time to talk money. We'll talk about all of this stuff. I'm joined today by Kat Nahara, one of my new coworkers. Kat, we're so thankful you're here at CAFCU, sharing your expertise, being a part of this session. And so let's make sure your mic is going if you want to say hey to people.
Yeah, hi. Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited to be able to take part in this with you. I'm always open to talking about finances and savings and, the whole nine yards about financials. So I'm really excited to be here.
Yes. And today we are talking about guiding financial futures. We are talking about teaching kids, teaching minors about money. So there's a few things we just want to say. This is a classic. I feel like one of the most common things I have heard being on the front line with the credit union is when we go and talk to employees, talk to our community members about finances, it's, everyone's trying to figure this stuff out. They say, I wasn't taught this stuff in school. And so with this, it's so important. There's a lot of focus into this, but I also want to recognize that parenting and money are two very personal items in people's lives. They're like providing this level of care. Everyone has a distinct background with this stuff. Everyone has distinct beliefs and ideas surrounding it. So some of what we say may not necessarily align with your life. Some things may line right up. It's really about being mindful of your situation and what might work for you. Just for example, allowance. We're going to talk about this a little later on. It can be a very hot topic for people of do you give kids allowance? Do they have to work for allowance? What does it mean to just be a part of a household? So just again, everyone's going to have a distinct experience that shapes their beliefs. I'm not here to tell you that your beliefs are wrong because again, you have your own experience surrounding these things. It's just staying mindful of it. If we overstep at times, please be patient with us because again, this is so personal. I love being a parent. I love thinking about these things and so we're going to try to rein this passion in while still actively sharing all of these wonderful things with you. But we're really going to break down looking at us as the guides, not us, but us collectively as the group as these guides. Who are we to be in these positions? What are we trying to accomplish? Looking at how early this really happens with kids, and then really trying to give a breakdown on making it approachable for them. This session is set to be 30 minutes long. If we run a little bit over again, this is being recorded. If you need to leave, totally okay. The session will be there for people to watch the rest of it. And we'll usually call that out, but we're gonna dive right into this so we can get going. So thank you everybody for your patience, and here we go. So when I said talking about us as the guide, so often again this conversation is this stuff wasn't taught when I was in school and this stuff it wasn't even necessarily that the parents were teaching this and so it brings the question up of what is this disconnect, what are some potential hurdles for having these conversations, and so we've got some insights. This is from a 2022 PwC employee financial wellness survey, so they talked to over 700 financially stressed full-time employees. And when asked why they didn't seek financial guidance, um, it was typically related to embarrassment within these things. But many adults avoided these money conversations because it felt private, a little embarrassing, or simply it was just something that their family had never talked about. And so that silence that people become accustomed to surrounding finances can absolutely carry into adulthood. And so here's the good news. When we just start talking about this stuff, even if we don't have the right words for it, we are already breaking these stigmas down. We are normalizing that it is okay to have this conversation about money. Um, we never expect perfection. We just, work towards progress. And so even if you are still figuring this out along with us as we all do this, it is as long as you are having these conversations, you are moving yourself in a great path forward because this like I think this second quote of 25% of these employees said, I don't want anyone to see that I'm in debt. By having these conversations, by normalizing money stuff, you are teaching people that it's that when they are in debt is the time to be having these conversations, that life happens fast and naturally, and that it doesn't mean that we need to hide our head in the sand necessarily because things have gone awry. It says, okay, this is the time where things happen. You can start to have this conversation with a trusted professional. So this is where, again, Money Compass comes in, joining these sessions, seeking out workers at the credit union to maybe answer questions or talking with friends and family who have done well financially that might be in a position to do this or have successfully navigated these with they'll true have done like whatever that may be. It's again just knowing that it's okay to seek out these resources to have these conversations, and by doing that in itself you're breaking down three of the most common deterrents for people getting help in the future. And so already, just by being here, by thinking about this stuff, you're putting yourself in a great spot. And with this, it's great too because it's just a bridge into having this honest conversation is just modeling some of these things, talking about it. And once we make it safe to talk about these things, we can really start early because these money habits do start early with kids and earlier than you might think. If you look in the resources tab within Zoom for our widget, you're going to see a link to an article about this. So this was a study out of Michigan University, Michigan Ross, and they found that kids as young as 5 have distinct markers that determine whether they are going to be savers or spenders. And that's wild. That's so crazy to think that it happens that young. But within there too, what this study found was that the children's distinct markers or tendencies to lean towards one or the other was not necessarily a reflection of the parents' tendency. So, this idea that we are each our own individuals, the same way that we were informed by the environments surrounding us and money, same thing is happening with uh, these children's nowadays. Money is presented in so many different ways. The ads we are seeing are different than when we were kids watching, all these Nerf bubbles on Nickelodeon or Disney versus now we have ads and games that are pulling up, buying into memberships and doing these different things. So it's just a different environment surrounding what money kind of looks like. And so again, we say this is happening at a young age. And it's not modeled necessarily after us. So they are not just tiny copies of us, they are their own people. And so this means that our job is to notice their natural tendencies and coach them. A saver needs help setting joyful goals so they can still enjoy money. A spender needs a plan. So spending does not steamroll the goals. It's about these things in balance. We are not trying to teach people to eat only peanut butter sandwiches until they can retire, right? We want to say that money is a tool that you shape to lead a financially well life. You can use it to build towards your future. You can use it to enjoy your present moment. And it's just finding that balance within what your personal situation is. And that's what we're trying to highlight within these kids. It's just how you use it to move your life forward. And so again, either way, the sooner we talk, the healthier these habits. And so this is just kind of a fun thing as we get into it. But I know a common thing when we're teaching, when we're trying to learn something is, well, explain it to me like I'm 5. Explain it to me like I'm in, a little grade. And so let's explain it like I'm 5. We're going to talk about meeting kids where they're at. This is just a good example of really how we might frame these things to build interest within our kids. And so keeping it simple. Just money. If they say, "What is money? What are you talking about?" It can be that basic. Money is the stuff we trade for things we want and need. They are going to see this interaction through us swiping cards, through cash going out, through if they're watching us purchase things on our phone and doing simple taps. That is going to be their view of money, of they're going to see this transactional action to it. And so being able to identify what it is that we are moving through these actions. So money, stuff we need for things we want and need. A bank is the safe place that holds our money when we are not using it. And that's it. When kids get the big picture in plain words, they'll feel confident. And once they can get this, you can start introducing these next topics as it comes to money, which is these money homes. And so a savings account, one way to say it, it's like a quiet drawer where money rests and slowly grows. We can keep our longer term goals here. So as we're saving for something a little bit larger, saying, hey, we're going to put this into our savings account. A checking account, it's kind of like a busy backpack that goes places. If we're trying to put it in terms these kids would recognize, it helps us pay for things safely without carrying cash all the time. And by putting it in these terms, we're creating this visual picture that they might be able to identify closer with. And again, once these things are clicking in, we can start to expand on these bigger topics like credit and debt. These might seem large, but there's still connections to kids that they can understand some basic things surrounding this. So, credit. Credit is permission to borrow, and debt is what you are going to still owe after you borrow. So, if your child borrows a toy, they'll return it. If we borrow dollars, we return those too, usually with a fee called interest. But that would be second layer of teaching these things. Right now, it's just saying, yes, it is normal to borrow, and just that when we do borrow, we still bear this responsibility, and that is what that debt is. And so that simple frame helps kids see the borrowing as a tool to be used with care. So it's not just saying debt, debt, debt. It's saying, no, we're just doing this very specifically. And on the previous slide or on two slides ago, I said bank, right? And you might be like, well, but you work for corporate America Family Credit Union. Why are we not talking about credit unions? Why would we use the term bank? To which I say, the phrase is typically piggy bank, not piggy credit union. We are assigning simple phrases that they'll understand. And it's still an important distinction to make. I have been a member of a credit union since I was very young age, preschool, probably with the John Deere Credit Union in Iowa. They had Kirby the Kangaroo. We would go to these mascot events and they would hand out candy. Awesome. I have been a member of a credit union as I've moved around the country over my previous years. I became an employee of this credit union and I still was not as familiar with what credit unions actually were. And so here's how this breaks down. A credit union, in case you were also not familiar, it's like a bank, but it's run by all of your friends that put the money into. So that's kind of it. We are the not-for-profit version of a bank. It is all the same stuff, but the reality is where banks have shareholders that are investing in to drive profits to earn money back on their dividends within Wall Street. Credit unions are member owned. So the money that we all put in together is what is used to then manage our saving and our borrowing, and that since we are all friends working on this together, that's where we're able to help out with better rates and with these different promotions and by upgrading these services. But it's all geared around making this work for each other, empowering each other to give ourselves a good financial option. It really is that simple. It's as if all of us here pulled our money together, which we did into CAFCU, if you're a member of us, and pulled it together and said, okay, Kat, you need to borrow money for something. So with all this money pooled, we're going to get you this loan. Since we're friends, you're going to pay us back this loan. It will be with a smaller interest because we're friends. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to charge you too high of a thing. And then you'll pay that back with that interest. With that interest, so hey, we're doing great. The money we pooled is now growing. Why don't we use this money to then improve our services and offer something new, like Greenlight, which we're going to talk about towards the end of this. But this is the idea that we are all working together to make money easier for ourselves, and we can highlight this distinction as it comes up naturally. But for right now, we're just really trying to teach these concepts, these basic things of banking, of being aware of your money, of putting your money in a safe place, and using banking as a verb, not a noun. So it's an action that is happening, not just a place where we store it. And so that's where we get into explain it like I'm five. Now, with these next topics, we are going to start to break down these concepts within income. So again, it's as we are pointing these things out for our kids, for the children that we are taking care of, um, we are not going to be able to teach them the end all be all of income in one night. It's saying, hey, if we can start to recognize these certain pieces of this, this is going to help you propel your life forward and get you to whatever your next learning step is. And so we tried to address these naturally within here. But so looking at this income. Um, we are just trying to break income into simple buckets that they are going to be able to identify in their daily life. So we're looking at earned income. So this is where we're trading our time and effort and our skills for money. So if we do chores, if there's yard work, if there's a part-time job, if you have an older kid, again, we talked about one of these first jobs was working at McDonald's, and I had a consistent income at that time. But I never thought of it as a regular, consistent income. I just thought, cool paycheck. And I also did yard work for my grandfather, who would pay me, $5 an hour to be doing stuff in his garden. And that was inconsistent money, or gifts, as it's inconsistent that were money still coming in. And so it's without removing the fun, like without being so hard about it and be like, you have money coming in. XYZ, here's everything that's going on with it, just calling it out as it is. Oh, great. So that's your regular paycheck. This is your consistent thing. Having a plan for how these things break down is just, again, highlighting that there is an extra level of awareness to this. And so that's why we talk about earned, unearned, regular income, where it shows up on a schedule, irregular, where it pops up here and there. With young kids, it's just saying it out loud in the moment. Oh, grandma gave you birthday money. That's, an irregular income coming in. So you've got this, one-time thing with this. What do you think you're going to do with it? And starting to frame it in this way versus just awesome, you get paid. What happens next? It's calling it out in a normal, safe way. Um, and so, with all of this, once money comes in, the next question is, what do you do with it? And so, I'm going to turn this part over to my coworker, Kat, and she's going to talk about this, and she's got some great experience that I'm excited for her to share. So, Kat, I'm going to turn this over to you now.
Yeah, so savings, right? I think we all, when, at any stage of our life, right, we're told that we have to save, right? Whether we're 5 years old, 10 years old, and or 15, right, where we start working, when we start getting our first paycheck, or even as adults. I think we're all aware that we have to save, right? But it's always the how and the why, right? Most importantly, how, right? Especially when we're just wired to earn and not save, right? We're just working to solve the problem or to pay those bills that are right in front of us today, right now, right? And not in the future. We don't, it's almost like we don't have time to think futuristic, right? Because we're so focused on what's in front of us. Um, but that's where, just saving and tying it to real goals, right? So for example, for me, what worked for me, which may not work for everyone, right? But for me, I started with my holiday account, right? Because I was so tired of just here comes October, here comes November, and we have to save up because we're buying Christmas presents for the kids or for your nieces and nephews, family members, anyone, right? And then we're scrambling, trying to figure out, get every penny from the barrel, and I got tired of that, right? So for me, it was just, okay, January, first check of January, I'm just going to deposit $25, right? Something that you don't even really feel, right? And then eventually, then it turned into, $700 at the end of the year. And I was like, wow, okay, like I could do this. I could really do this. And it almost became addicting to me, where now I'm like, all right, I'm gonna double this next year, right? So, and I did, and that's kind of where you form those habits, right? You start forming those routines, those habits, and children can do the same, right? It's not just necessarily for us adults, but I have a 13-year-old, and I tell her the same thing, right? I tell her you have to save. Her face, the look on her face is always just, why? You pay for my stuff, right? So, and I sure do. But at the same time, it's just, okay, let's teach them, how we were talking about earlier with income, right? Like, how do you work for your money, right? Working for that dollar. And with her, I learned, and again, this is my kid, right? It may not work for everyone. But with her, I learned that I can't give her an allowance, right? That doesn't work in my household. And I also couldn't get her to work for or I should say, I couldn't get her to do chores for money. I would say, hey, wash the dishes, $5. And her response would always be, make it 20. I'm like, make it nothing. So, you go through those experiences and, sometimes you have to learn the way around your own kids, right? She tried to do like her own little bracelet business and it worked out until she got tired of it, right? So just kind of getting them in those habits as well, right? Or just as simple as, well, do you want to spend $10 on that Play-Doh set, or do you want to keep saving and maybe buy, I don't know, what's out there, Labubu's, right? Let's keep saving. And then at some point they're not going to want it anymore, right? And they may, right? But just kind of preparing them to save for a bigger reward, right? If you have 15-year-olds or 16-year-olds, right, that are just starting to work, kind of getting them used to the idea of, maybe save a third of your paycheck, half of your paycheck, right? Just and also putting a goal towards it, right? Do you want to purchase a brand new used car? New to you and but used, right? Just kind of working towards those goals so that way it seems more like they have a reason to save, right? As opposed to just being told you have to save. No one wants to save. I don't want to save sometimes. But putting it towards a goal where, okay, you can buy your car or buy a laptop for school or, whatever that next goal is that they have coming up.
Uh, Kat, if I can even chime in on some of what you're saying here, absolutely. And it's just a classic thing of being told to save within simple saving strategies. And in a lot of these sessions, we talk about emotionally motivated goals. Money is something that we attach so much feeling to, and we make emotional decisions, not logical ones. And so that is
Yeah.
where a lot of impulse spending comes in as well, because we're seeking out, these feel good moments, and which can turn into a detrimental cycle, which is not what this session is about. But it's this idea of having a larger reason, not just saying I want an emergency savings, but as an adult, I want an emergency savings so I can have this peace of mind and stability should something happen with my kids. And when I start to voice that second half of it, that emergency savings, the first part becomes more of a priority. It becomes more of a, oh yeah, I've got a bigger reason towards working towards this. And in the same vein with teaching kids, trying to find these mirrors between our financial lives and their financial learning is like Kat said, of just being told to save for the sake of saving personally did not work for me. I unfortunately learned through my mistakes better than anything. And so with those early paychecks that I had, I distinctly remember my parents saying, okay, half of it has to be saved towards college. And that was that conversation. That's kind of where it ended. And it was, of course, like my parents in their minds are saying, hey, great, we're having him put money away. He's doing this thing. But I didn't understand why I was saving for it in this way. I didn't understand connecting that savings to my tuition. Let me tell you that I spent that money at the gift store within that first year so quickly. It wasn't anything too crazy in there, but it's again connecting it, making it something real, and having it when you're able to when they're so young, where it's maybe less of a lower stakes for it, then I think that's a great place to tie to maybe something they're a little more interested in. So in this example, in this image, it says for Barbie Castle. Again, like if they're able to say, okay, I know exactly the item that this is for, that they are working towards, and I would say have your own goal of something fun to buy for yourself at the same time. So this is something you're working on together. Obviously, whatever works within your budget for how you do this, whatever that ends up being, whether it is an experience that you are saving up for some sort of positive moment or just this learning lesson connected to this material item, however that is for you, working on it side by side, showing this delayed over time process of, okay, if there is a regular money coming in, then you can highlight regularly saving while still having money to spend. Or if it is done through these windfalls of gifts, holidays, however that is for people, similar to a tax return, a rebate, the way we would see in our own life, teaching, okay, well, you just got all of this money. Do you want to put this towards your goal that you have, or would you rather spend it on these different things? And again, it's just voicing this stuff out loud, saying that there is a decision you have right now with the money, and then really trying to break down why they feel the way they do, understanding where they're coming from, and teaching them this aspect of I've got something bigger and better waiting for me, and then this is going to enable us into some of our other goals surrounding credit and borrowing in terms of these longer term goals that we were able to view in the distance and really make progress towards without worrying about, oh no, I'm suddenly in this spot. How do I do this overnight? That you can achieve it through these times. So, Kat, great points. Let's move on to the next one. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, no, and it was great what you were sharing right now too, because it kind of led us into the spending aspect of it, right? Because it's either, you save it or you spend it,
And
right?
then when you save it, you spend it at the college shop.
Or as my daughter loves to spend her money at Five Below. So, Five Below takes her money all the time. But going through with that as well, right? It's how Will had mentioned the emotional connection when you're spending money, right? Like, do you really want this? Do you need it? Does it have to be now? Can you wait? So it all kind of comes together. But definitely asking those questions, with behind the purchase, right? Is this something that can wait? Is this something that we can just put off, right? Because right now, with the world that we live in, right, the digital world that we live in now, it makes it so easy for us to spend money, right? Especially when we have that little plastic card in our wallets that we either tap, swipe, insert, whatever it is, right? It makes it so much easier. And but also with that, having those conversations with the children, right? I started having conversations with my daughters, and she was like 8 years old. And trust me, it goes in one ear and out the other. Um, but throughout the year, she's almost 14 now. So she's almost 14, and she's starting to ask questions, right? Like, well, how do you, if you can't buy me this, then why do you have a card, right? And it's like, well, I have to put money in the card. It's money doesn't just magically appear. And then just kind of, going through those conversations. For me, what worked was a lot of our conversations happen in the car, right? Whether we're going to volleyball, to school, going home, a lot of those conversations came up. And the reason why is because as we're going to our destination, she wants a donut, she wants McDonald's, whatever it is. And for me, it was always one of those moments where it's like, let me teach you about money really quick, right? So it would turn into like a 2-minute conversation, because again, it goes with the questions of swiping and, that little plastic card that you have in your wallet.
Mhm.
Um,
Kat,
but
can I jump in here with something directly
yeah,
connected to this? Because so again, the car as you're passing these things where it's like, oh, can we stop there? Oh, can we stop here? It's again, it's taking that pause and saying, oh, here's a moment. Here's a money moment that we can talk about. So for me, I think a money moment with one of my sons is when we're shopping, when I have him at the store with me and he says, oh, look at that flaming hot Velveeta cheddar Cheeto mac and cheese going on over there. Like, can we get this, Dad? And it's like, okay, well, we can get one of these, or we can get five of these for the same amount of money. Do you want one thing of mac and cheese, or would you like five things of mac and cheese? And when we do this, though, we also talk about neither of these is the wrong choice. This could be a great fun thing. If you want to try new foods, I would love for my kids to try more foods in general. And again, it's just bringing awareness to, hey, like, do you want a one-time thing of mac and cheese? Would you like to have more mac and cheese overall with this? Would you get more out of this experience of this? Or do you just like this in general? And it's starting to break these things down when they come up without, attaching, don't ever buy this mac and cheese, just saying like, hey, what's your thinking behind this? And like really getting them to create those thoughts for themselves and to start to create that connection between their thoughts and their financial decisions. So, Kat, thank you for letting me interrupt you for a second.
no, no, of course. And I love that because another thing that, that I found useful was, okay, let's go to Walmart and look at this price, but let's see if we can find it at Goodwill, right? So that was also an option that I'd like to throw out there, right? And just because again, it's worked for me. Um, and half of the time you do find it there or on OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace, right? Some things are slightly used and, but they're maybe just used for a couple of times and you can save tons of dollars there, right? So just also that's what I found that was helpful for her to learn. Okay, well, maybe I don't have to spend all my $10 that I just earned, right? But maybe I spent $2 out of it and I have eight more to go buy snacks.
Yeah. I think what you brought up of good, I can say a lot of these books behind me here came from Goodwill. And they say, I think it's as simple as saying, okay, here's what they're saying is an Amazon bestseller that they are selling this book for $3.30, whatever price that may end up being. Or, hey, let me just pull this up on my phone real fast and here's some price comparisons. Now, what is this book worth as brand new versus used? Are you going to see the same value? And again, just saying,
Mhm.
taking the moment and saying, hey, I found this for a little bit cheaper here. Do you need to spend more money to get this? What else could we use that money for? Could we get two books for the price of this one book through this aspect? Or even saying, okay, well, let's add an additional cost to this. So here's this one book in front of us right now. And now with Amazon, it's like, okay, well, we can get these two books or we can get one book. Plus, we have to pay for shipping or a monthly membership as this breaks down. And so, attaching just different costs associated with these purchases as it happens, as it comes up, because there will be these moments. Yes, no, this stuff is really good. And I think we've talked about delayed gratification in terms of savings, and Kat talked about this as well of just like the taking a pause, taking that time gap. And I think that's another one of like really introducing time as a concept within money. It's not just knowing a savings account and a checking account, or yes, income comes in, but time is such a huge factor in a lot of our financial goals, whether that is saving up for something bigger, whether that is, oh, 1 second. There we go. Sorry about that. Whether it is saving for something bigger or if it is taking the pause on purchases just to give it a day, a week, a month, when so much is driven by being caught up in the moment, seeing these ads, influence and impulse, like we talk about on the slide, introducing that pause in and of itself, doesn't matter how long it is again just showing that that is a healthy, normal thing to do and that you might be able to alleviate some regretful financial purchases. I think one of these big indicators, again, we talk about this digital world we live in, it's shaped so differently than when we were kids. Um, Buy now, pay later with Klarna, with Affirm. We did a blog about this stuff a few months back, but it is in everyday life. It is being offered in more and more areas. When I pay with something through Google Pay connected to my CAFCU account, then it still will give me the option of, hey, do you want to split this payment up? If I go on to order a pizza from a local place and I go to pay for it through their app, it'll say, hey, do you want to split these payments up? And oftentimes at stores where it's, hey, you can split up these groceries, there's a lot of regret connected with using these programs, just as the studies have shown. But it's also people are in a place where they are relying on these things because of timing schedules, because of how money is dispersed, because of billing issues, whatever it may be. They have become more and more popular. These usage keeps increasing as we run into these issues. So again, teaching this pause is going to help in identifying these things later on to bring some of this alleviation. I will recognize we are a little bit over on our time right now. So if you do need to leave, again, thank you for sticking around this long. And we're gonna keep going. We're almost done with this section. So, Kat, I'm going to keep moving unless you had anything else you wanted to add about spending, and that's totally okay.
No,
You
no,
good?
we can move forward.
And Kat, again, please chime in as I've been chiming if you have things you want to talk about. And so let's talk about credit and debt because again, we want to start talking about these bigger concepts, having them understand the role this plays in our life as it is now. And so here's the headline. You need credit activity, not debt, to build your credit. So this can be a giant catch 22. People say I'll never use credit, but credit comes in when we're trying to get set up with utilities, when it comes into getting our if we're trying to rent a place as we go up, the people run background checks on these different aspects. Or again, if you are taught, hey, never use debt, never touch your credit. And then when it comes time to buy a home later, where naturally it's a larger purchase that people end up borrowing for, and it's people need credit at these times. And so we don't want to teach credit as this negative aspect because it absolutely can be used to move your life forward, like purchasing a home, like purchasing that new used car, like Kat was talking about, which next month we're doing smart car shopping for our webinar. So if you're enjoying the session, that's what we're covering in September, that third Thursday, smart car shopping. But getting into this further, it's really just trying to again identify that credit and increasing our credit worthiness is a tool to get these things that we are going to want later in life. as we're trying to teach it again in ways that people might understand, I said, think of it as a video game. So making on-time payments, keeping your balances low, these two largest impacts at 35%, 30% of our credit scores under the FICO traditional 8 motto. And again, that sentence full of jargon. What does a lot of what I just said mean? Which, if you're curious, covered that in Credit Made Clear, which you can find on YouTube. But it's this idea of, again, there are these all of these lingo that goes with these things that we're just introducing more questions and confusion. So it's really trying to speak to this. So, thinking of credit as a video game, on-time payments, keeping balances low, the biggest things we can do, using credit responsibly. It's like scoring points and leveling up. If something goes wrong, like a missed payment or a high balance, it's like taking damage in the game, but just like in the game, you can always retry the level, you can rebuild, regain, and move forward stronger. And kids might understand that if they're familiar with video games. The idea that this is not just because you take damage, it is not permanent. You can look at where you're at, recognize what steps you need to take to improve, and move your life forward still. Keep moving forward in this game progression. Um, and just again, it can absolutely have more serious consequences, but it's in teaching this stuff early that we're hopefully going to help avoid some of this as we move in. And so, talking about this, and also it's trying to make sense of borrowing. So when borrowing makes sense, like that first car or school, and not just saying save for college, but saying save for that college tuition. It can be something where we say, okay, let's save first because bigger down payments when it comes to savings and prepared plans for understanding how much we can afford when making these payments is going to help us save just an overall interest and overall time, just overall money and stress. And so that's why understanding what we're borrowing for, and that we can save ahead of time is going to help put us in that position. So we're teaching kids that debt is a tool for moving your life forward. It's not just a way to buy things we cannot afford. And again, in all of these things, it's a safe place to practice all of this, meeting them where they're at. People use credit cards in all sorts of different ways. And it's that idea of like if you are using your credit card because you are getting those points back and you're doing the rewards that go with it, it's just saying, yeah, I may be using my credit card, but within my monthly budget, I know that I've covered all of these purchases that I'm going to make. It's all allotted for, so I'm going to be able to pay off this balance in full each month. And so again, saying these things, just modeling that this is the step you take, starts to improve these things for the kids or starts to bring a greater awareness to it. And outside of these concepts, we're also just teaching how to use the tools because Kat and I were talking about this the other day that again, what kids are so aware of so many things to an alarming extent. And so if we are going on this vacation and they are seeing us maybe tapping the card in a lot of different places to make it quick, and then when we tap this card, we get a nice cold drink and we get a cool new toy and a great souvenir. And it's saying that if that's all they're seeing, then that's what they know it to be, that I do this and I get joy. And so again, taking that moment to say, I'm doing this, but I already have this money planned. I am putting it towards this. So that way I'm not spending more overall through these extra fees, through these extra payments of borrowing, that it's still something that we are just using this for it's easier now, but still connecting it to your larger financial plan as appropriate to share, as appropriate to get into those details and numbers for whatever you determine with your family. And so it's again using these tools, using these cards, using cash, being able to view your account, view your savings as it grows, these automatic transfer tools. And so again, I remember going to the John Deere Credit Union and seeing Kirby the Kangaroo and being in that building and knowing that this is where we interacted with money. And so visiting one of our branches, showing that money exists outside of your phone or your wallet, that this is a whole building and a whole team of people dedicated to making this easier and helping is a great way to bring realness to this in, the world we're in. And again, we want them to be saving for these, using these tools. Having a piggy bank, having, a safe place is great. Showing, hey, when we have money, we want to put this into an account where it's especially going to be safe and we're going to earn more with it, is a great way to, again, start teaching these tools that they'll be using. So with us, we do have a savings account for minors that parents or caregivers, legal guardians um, are able to join so that way the minor can open the account. There's no minimum balance for these kids. At 16, then teens can add a checking account for this real life practice of spending, and having a little more individual control over that. Uh, and that you are still a joint on, so you're still providing this sort of oversight, creating the safe environment to talk to them about what's going on within the account. And just as I said, that we are the money that we use, the interest that Kat paid on that loan that we lent her with the lower interest rate is being used to improve our services, like Greenlight. Greenlight is a tool that we have coming out soon. I'm going to wait to share more details about all of it. Typically, this is something that you might pay for through a monthly subscription or some sort of annual fee, maybe, but through the credit union, if you're a member, you're just going to have access to using this. And this is going to be then great for some of those younger kids, where I really like using our accounts for these teens because it is what they'll use as an adult and being able to see their automatic payments, automatic transfers, being able to see how this money breaks down once it's in an app for their credit union banking account is a great, great thing for kids who are maybe a little bit younger, who are maybe going to be focusing on different things. Greenlight is a great tool. Parents are able to send money, kids are able to spend money to track certain goals within it, but it creates that maybe more suitable environment for that younger generation who are maybe looking for fun cartoons connected to it. So Greenlight's coming in very soon with all of this. We're very excited to share that. But again, using these tools, getting their hands-on experience for the practice of it, because again, they're aware this stuff is happening. The sooner we can start, the sooner we can give them experience in managing these things while it's safe before we've got larger potential financial impacts. We're just trying to set them up for success. So, keeping it simple, keeping it real. Think about how you were taught, things wish you were taught differently, or methods that you thought might have worked for you. It's really, again, noticing these money moments and just talking about them as they occur, as you're shopping, as you're driving by with these requests, as they're playing on their phone and saying, "Oh, can I get this app? Can I get this app?" Yeah, I've got to pay $40 a month, but it's a cool app. I can do makeup on a filtered face, right? Whatever it ends up being. Just talking about, hey, is this really where you want to spend your money? Do you have another goal that you might want to attach that to? And is that why we're saving for something that matters? Because it's going to mean a little bit more towards them for them to understand this practice of saving and again spending with the pause. If we are able to put that break into our spending and our impulse habits as it comes up, would serve a lot of people very well. I know it would serve me in my moments of impulse spending. And so it's really just having the conversation is going to do the most wonders within all of this. And again, keeping it appropriate. So it doesn't mean we're necessarily sharing our salary at a very young age, but just talking about I am paid for this work that I do. I can increase my earning potential by leveling up my skills, by looking where I'm work might find different value in this for different employers potentially as it just goes around. It's just having the conversations, keeping it simple, keeping it approachable. Um, and again, just doing the best we can is all we can try. We're not looking for perfection. We're gearing towards progress because we're trying to empower financial success here at CAFCU. And again, we talked about what this means. We are going to provide a lot of tools for you, but it is how you use these tools to shape your life that's really going to determine your financial success because your version of financial success is also probably very different than my version of financial success. And so, whatever that may be, we've got a lot of things going for us here at the credit union to help with this. We do have a new member discount. So when you first join, within the first 60 days, you can take 0.25% off the qualifying APR on all vehicle loans, all signature loans, these fixed rate home equity loans. We run promotions all the time on different things. So if you look in our current promotions resource link, you're going to see what we have going on there. Right now, we have a 5 times the points with new credit cards towards gas, utilities, and groceries, I believe. And we also have, I want to say 5 times the points for Jet Set Swipe, where it's money used towards airfare, hotels, certain restaurants, where you're earning more points for that. Again, you can check that out under current promotions. We also have our Money Compass session. So if this sparked more questions in you, or if you want to address questions you have about your own financial life, this is where these Money Compass sessions, they are free, they are unlimited, and they are secure. Becky shared a link for this in the chat already. You can go to cafcu.org/coaching, cafcu.org/money compass financial coaching. There's a lot of different ways to get access into it. but it's your time to talk finances. And again, it's very personalized. It's just a moment to listen and to reflect and say, okay, well, what's going on? How do we, get you these resources that you'll need for what you may have? And that's what we've got towards this. I know, again, we've gone over by a bit. There's so much that goes into these topics sometimes, but we're here for questions. We're going to stick around for just a little bit. If people have any questions, otherwise, thank you so much for being here today, for being a part of this. Hopefully, we've brought some relief, answered some of your questions. Kat, thank you so much for joining. Ah,
Of
um,
course. I love
yes.
doing these.
Well, and again, you've got such great firsthand experience. My kids are 9 and 7, soon to be 8. I'm having different conversations than you are
Yeah.
having with a 13-year-old than with, you know, your baby's a little young to start talking about this now. You're not at that age 5 yet, right?
Right.
Um, but again, huge important topic. We're glad to be able to speak to it today. Hopefully you found something of value. Let us know in the survey. Again, your thoughts. If you have other questions, again, we'll stick around for a second. Here's something coming in. So, question was, how old can my child be to open an account for him? Any minor can have an account opened. You just have to join as that joint owner of it. So they wouldn't have the account by themselves. You would have to also attach yourself to the account. But that can happen at any age. It's just that at age 16, that is when they are able to add that checking account to it as well. There is that limitation. And again, it's just trying to provide these tools at the right steps with these resources. And again, green light's coming up. There's going to be a lot of cool things that go with that. And we will explore that together and all the great ways we're going to be able to use that. Um, yes. Any other questions? We're here to answer this for sure. And if you just want to save your questions for a money compass with Becky or someone else on the team, totally okay. And if you want to put your questions in your survey, also okay. Or you can even email, I'm going to type this in, financial wellness at cafcu.org is an email that you can send questions to if that's a preferred communication method. Otherwise, though, it doesn't look like we have any other questions coming in. So we are going to end this session. Thank you to everybody who attended. Kat, any final statements, any closing words before we send people out?
Um, no, I'm just glad that everyone had an opportunity to join us. Again, please, send us questions. All questions are good questions. And this is a safe space, so anything that comes up,
Yeah.
please feel free to ask.
Yeah. And speaking of, someone just asked, here's the question that came through. How does one start building credit at a young age? And what a great question that is. With credit, there we look at what are these largest impacts of making payments on time and revolving credit balances and keeping credit low. I think as these kids are starting off, as you're trying to teach borrowing in healthy ways, we have a share secured credit card. I think this is one of the best tools. And this is not just for kids, this is also for adults who are potentially rebuilding their credit. What this is you will save up a balance that you are selecting. I believe it can be as small as $100. I believe it can be as large as $10,000 that you are saving up. And when you open a share secured credit card with that balance, that becomes your credit limit. So if I say I saved up $100 to open this to build it, then I have a credit card with a $100 limit on it. And that is a great way to then start building that. When you naturally improve your credit, say, okay, I just want to turn this into a regular credit card and turn this into one of our rewards cards that we offer, because I believe all of them are rewards. It gives them then you would get that $100 back into their account. It was just held in a pledge fund, so it's still even earning interest while it's in that account. And then you get that money back, and then you just have the credit as provided from the credit union. But because you built it with the share secured card, you have the habits in place of paying these things down, of the credit history that you are now building, which is also a larger factor within credit scores. So in doing this one share secured card, you are increasing your credit diversity, which is a piece of your credit score under the FICO model. And again, we talk about all of this in Credit Made Clear if you're looking for additional details, but it's you are increasing your diversity by having a credit card. You are giving an opportunity to make payments on time, which again, 35% of your credit score is the big thing. And then with keeping the revolving balances low, keeping the 30% or less of a revolving balance. A revolving balance is credit cards, home equity lines of credit, things that are just kind of open that we can pull from. That is what that portion of it is for that 30% using below 30%. So if I have a credit card with $100, then I am trying to spend $33 or less, or keeping my balance below 33. And again, when we start with a smaller balance, then we can say, okay, I can account for $33 within my budget to pay that balance off in full. So that is where a share secured credit card can be such a great tool for that. And because it is backed by your own money, it's a smaller interest rate. That's one of the best methods I usually speak about for building your credit in a safe environment, because you can start to learn these habits without putting yourself on the line. I can tell you that I walked into one of my local credit unions at the time I was out in Colorado, and I said, "Hey, my friend told me about a credit card where you can back it with your own money, and I wanted to open one of those." And the guy said, "Hey, we could do that, or I can just give you $1,000 credit card." And I said, "Hey, that sounds pretty cool." And I for sure got $1,000 credit card, had no experience with using a credit card. And at the time I was working for a cell phone retailer, selling phones, selling plans in a shopping strip. So I would say, cool, here's my $1,000 credit card. Let me go get breakfast at the coffee and shop right next to me. Oh, okay, it's time for lunch at the shop at the right on the other side. Okay, time to leave for the night, time to go get dinner. And so I'm using this credit card because somebody told me I've got all this money available to me. I know that I've got to make these payments on it. I didn't necessarily understand keeping these balances low. And those are lessons you learn. Those are things you go through. And, you just, all you can do is say, that happened. How do I want to move myself forward from that point? And so that's where share secured credit card, where my guy just said, here's $1,000. Let me tell you, it is okay to start smaller and build up, that when it's time to turn it in, that can jump from the 100 that you put in to a 5,000 to a whatever limit, depending, and that you are given this opportunity to build your score up to put yourself in a better position for when you turn that into a regular credit card. Guy from my local credit union, wish I would wish you would have said these things. Somebody asked this question: is Credit Union One the same as CAFCU, or are they two different companies? They are two different companies. Credit unions do work with each other very well. We've got something called shared branching. So if a credit union belongs to the same network, you could go into Credit Union One and say, "Hey, I'm a Corporate America Family Credit Union member. Here is my driver's license. Here is my account number. I found 20 bucks on the street. I want to deposit it into my Corporate America account." And they can help you do that if they're part of that network, which I don't know if Credit Union One is or not. But that is something very unique that is not necessarily offered at these traditional banks. So if I go into Chase, I can't say, "Hey, Chase, I'm a member of PNC. Please put money in my PNC account." And they're gonna be like, "What are you talking about?" That, and again, it just varies. But if you go to our website, CAFCU.org, we have a little ATM locator, branch locator, and you can see the shared branching locations in our network. As long as they're updating the map, that should be up to date. All these credit unions bear their own responsibility towards that. But yes, two separate companies. People have banks or credit unions. Fun fact that it is either uh, it's like half of the people will have one institution. They say, "I've had this since I was a kid. I'm not changing anything related to this. This has worked for me." And that is a-okay. Again, I am not here to tell people how the specifics, I don't know their situation. There might be a lot of things to it. Other people, the remaining, have anywhere between two and potentially nine on average accounts with different locations. This could be because of different products, because they moved at different times, whatever it is. People nowadays, there are less limiting thresholds to your ability to bank with different financial institutions. You could look at any of these financial apps like Chime, Cash App, these retailers that you are now loading money into as you're spending. All of these things become different accounts that you hold. A Target credit card is still a different bank or financial institution. If you have these retail cards at these different places, so again, I say like some people, it's I only use this one. Other people, it's I'm going to select these as it makes sense for me. Some people with CAFCU, I know that there are some partner companies I work with where some employees use this for everything. Some employees use this exclusively for their vacation fund. Some employees use us specifically for their property taxes, that they have a portion from each paycheck pull into their savings account and they just have that off to the side. So when the time comes for their property taxes, that's how they're doing it. It's again, you got to find what's going to work for you. You know what you can find these systems. We're going to talk to options, but lots of different ways to do that. But that is some of the distinction between are we this one? How do credit unions work together? How do people have multiple accounts in general? Any other question? Clearly, we'll stay on and answer them if you've got them. We're clearly over, but we're happy to do this. If we're here right in front of you, Kat, if you need to leave because of your time commitments, also okay. But if there's anything else, again, we're happy to answer this as we have the time right now. Really, any questions? It doesn't even have to be related to this topic. Clearly, we're just getting into things. Okay. I'm not seeing anything come through, which is also okay. And maybe you're saving them for the surveys, but we're going to go ahead and call it then. Everybody, thank you so much. Again, hopefully this has helped on some level as you begin to approach these topics. And I'm wishing you all the best. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just about having the conversation itself is going to help break down those three biggest stigmas surrounding getting help in the future. And we're just trying to normalize this stuff. Just as the same we talk about it, the financial mistakes that I have made, I always say I am not special. Everyone goes through these things. We talk about the percentage of millennials on a paycheck paycheck cycle. We talk about the ever increasing credit balances that are happening in America right now. If you feel like you are financially struggling, I can tell you that you are not alone in that, and that it is, you may have ended up in this position and all it's saying, okay, that happened. What happens next? How do I take myself from that into the next thing? What changes do you think would work within your life to help you avoid the stress connected with some of these potentially negative impacts? There's so much we can do to help. It really, again, we're trying to empower this. If you want to have the conversation, Money Compass is a great way to go. CAFCU.org/Money Compass, or being in these sessions, having these conversations with us. However this works for you, we are happy to provide the support and assistance. So thank you again, everyone. And hopefully we see you in next month's session.